Did you know that ADHD can be attributed to strengths? And there's a pretty good chance that you know a woman in your life who has neurodivergent ways of thinking. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or better known as ADHD, presents very differently in women than men. And as a result, many women go undiagnosed. Boys get diagnosed 3 times more than girls because their symptoms show up as physically hyperactive and disruptive. Many girls go undiagnosed and live with the aspects of hyperactive minds through their childhood, their school years, college, and even most of their professional lives without even knowing. And so today, I'm hoping that as you listen, if any of these things resonate with you, that you feel less self-doubt, you feel less broken, and that you'll understand a little bit more about the way that you think. Possibly this resonates with you or someone that you may lead or someone in your family. My hope is to shed some light and more awareness on the strengths and positive attributes of ADHD. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to The Rooted Leader. Hi, I'm Kathleen Wise-Mandel. I'm a scientist, leader for over 20 years, and now a leadership coach. I created the short leadership minisodes that meet busy leaders where they are, offering insight, reflection, and questions that support growth in the flow of your work. You can think of it as your own mini personal coaching session. Thank you for being here. The 3 main presentations of ADHD include the hyperactive impulsive domain, the attention deficit or inattentive domain, or a combination of the two. It's stated that only 2 to 6% of the global population experience ADHD or neurodivergent thinking. I will say that even up until last year, I had more of an understanding of ADHD as being more focused on the attention deficit or inattentive domain, including those with executive dysfunction. So it was always labeled something a little bit negative. About 3 years ago, I started coaching executive women as part of a high potential leadership program. And what was interesting to me is that women who were assigned to me started sharing that they had ADHD. And I was shocked. These women were executives continuing to have great career success. And it wasn't something I had expected given my definition of ADHD. And I wanted to support them appropriately. So I started reading books and articles about ADHD in women. And there were a few out there that gave me some insights on some of the ways of thinking and realized that there actually is a high-performing, high-functioning component. Today we're going to focus primarily the hyperactive impulsive thinking that's involved with ADHD in typically women, and why a lot of us don't even know that that's our diagnosis. In January 2024, my newsletter, The Root, I decided to talk through how the ADHD presents differently in women. And I'll leave the link in the show notes if you want to dive deeper. What I found was ADHD presents very differently in women and girls. Rather than that hyperactive boy that we all remember in elementary school, girls present very differently with racing and hyperactive minds. And as a result, many girls go undiagnosed. On top of that are the societal and gender norms for girls to be good girls. So many of us find ways to either cope or mask to conform to gender role expectations unknowingly. And I will say that most of us don't realize this is anything unusual until those symptoms start to change and progress. Whether it's attributed to hormonal changes that impact the estrogen levels and our brain, we mask and cope until those no longer are effective. And then we wonder, what's going on? While most of us are aware of the aspects of ADHD that can be attributed to executive dysfunction and deficits, the positive attributes that are associated with high-performing professionals, including professional athletes, artists, includes hyperfocus, high energy, dealing with complex problems, high levels of empathy, sensitivity, and creativity. Previously, research has focused on the deficits and how to overcome executive dysfunction and the ability to get work done. It's now starting to shift towards the more positive attributes of ADHD and how important it is to the fast-paced, complex world and problems that exist right now in leadership and in daily work. The hyperactive impulsive aspects of ADHD in women shows up as having a very hyperactive, hyper-focused, very fast-thinking mind, one in which we're super efficient and highly productive. It provides a dopamine hit for us that we get energized by, and we can look to stay productive or busy to maintain that feeling without even realizing it. Sometimes that means that you're arriving at decisions or conclusions faster than others. You might be a really great problem solver and you work effectively with ambiguity and change. You're quite adept at dealing with complex issues and you're a big picture thinker. Those are all strengths of neurodivergent thinking. As a coaching tip, I would say realize that everyone else does not think and process information as quickly as you do. And so having that awareness can help you show up as more inclusive and understanding. Additionally, women with ADHD tend to have great empathy and sensitivity. And that's fantastic, but it can become an issue because we do tend to take energy and feelings of others very personally within us. And that's a risk to our own well-being. And this can lead to burnout. While I could go on and on about this topic, I do realize it is a mini-sode. I wanted to share that times of hormonal shifts can be a time for ADHD symptom severity changes. And some of these include onset at puberty, during pregnancy or post-pregnancy, during perimenopause, menopause. It's a time to be more aware when these symptoms may change, including our emotional response. Our hyperactive minds and our hyperfocus can come at a cost. While you can get in the flow of work and go really deep into something and be super efficient, you need to allow your brain and your body to rest and regain that energy. Resting is okay. The other thing that I learned was that perfectionism is closely associated with ADHD in women, and that typically your B- work as a hyperactive, impulsive part of the neurodivergent thinking is better than most people's A+ work. When you are striving for perfection, ask yourself, is that really necessary? Another aspect is simplify. While I find, especially in reflection, that I can do a lot of things, I now understand that sometimes I don't need to. And that simplifying and setting boundaries not only benefit my time, but they benefit my energy. There may be times you need to prioritize what's important, what adds value to your work or your family or to you. Many of my clients, especially as they're growing into more senior roles, need to understand the role of delegation. Not only is it important for you to start working on tasks that are more important for your role, delegation is not just dumping work on someone, it's allowing them to develop in ways that you've already mastered. And then lastly, sometimes we can get overwhelmed with a very big task and we want to, as they say, boil the ocean. But what if we take it and break those tasks down into smaller steps? That way they're simple steps, they're action-oriented, and we build momentum and save energy. That increased empathy and sensitivity we have for others can lead to overwhelm, especially during times like these. There's a lot of information coming our way, and a lot of it is hard to handle. So reduce your screen time and social media intake if you can. Allow yourself time to reset in nature, meditate or exercise to allow that other part of your brain to reset. In some of the coaching clients, we had to differentiate between what was ADHD thinking and what was really just that discomfort of growth or transition. We want to ensure is that we are acknowledging those times of discomfort as being associated with change and new things rather than deficit thinking from ADHD. A lot of these resonate with the things we've talked about over the podcast episodes, including imposter syndrome, dipping into the victim, villain, hero drama triangle, and these things impact our negative emotion attractors. And we'd like to do is move us into the positive emotional attractors as much as possible to take our energy back and to move forward with action. 3 takeaways. Women with ADHD typically go undiagnosed, and most don't receive diagnosis until their adult life. We tend to have hyperactive minds versus the hyperactive physical symptoms often seen in boys and men. 2, hormone transitions play a big part of the exacerbation of symptoms at times of puberty, pregnancy or post-pregnancy, perimenopause and menopause, and even during menses cycles. And 3, physical and mental rest is critical. We run on high energy most of the time. Our hypersensitivity and sensory overloads can really take a toll on us. And so it's important to balance that with rest. Rest can be labeled as unproductive or lazy, but we really need to redefine that. Not only do our minds need to rest and our bodies, we need to allow ourselves time to recharge and regenerate. Reflection. I'd like you to take this time to reflect. Whether you are neurotypical or neurodivergent in thinking, these questions still may resonate with you. Think of it as your own personal mini coaching session. Did any of the topics today resonate with you? And if so, which ones? In the past, how might you have coped or masked the symptoms? Do you find yourself striving for perfection versus excellence? And how might you rethink this approach? In times of overload or overwhelm, are you able to break down tasks into smaller pieces? How are you building in boundaries to minimize taking too many responsibilities? What of those responsibilities add value to your personal life or to your work life? Or is it a way of staying busy and productive? And how do we stop our minds for a moment to reflect rather than react? How are you building in times for rest between times of hyperfocus or states of being in flow? How else are you finding time to rest your mind? And do you have an opportunity to build in focus time into your daily calendar to either reset or ensure you don't have back-to-back meetings, or just to complete priority work with less distraction? If any of this resonates with you today, I want you to know you're not broken. And while we're not quite at the point of celebrating the superpowers of ADHD publicly, we know that there's still a lot of shame that exists, but you do not have to carry that shame. I hope that you will find other women with ADHD to connect with. There are many other women doing the work, raising the families, and are still feeling broken. As I continue my research on the leadership identity of high-achieving women professionals with adult ADHD diagnosis, I am seeing much more research being done in the strengths and positive attributes of ADHD thinking, including the intersections of ADHD in women with other social identities. I hope you found this episode interesting. Take care of yourself and know that you are amazing. Thank you for joining the Rooted Leader podcast. You'll find links and resources in the show notes. And if you'd like to share a thought or a question for a future episode, you can email me at therootedleaderpodcast@gmail.com or reply directly on the Rooted Leader Substack. And if you might benefit from connecting with other leaders, the Rooted Leader community is a private space where you can ask real questions and get real perspectives from other leaders. Every month, we gather for the Rooted Leader Roundtable, where we reflect on a leadership topic of the month. I guide you through a process for insights, connection, and private conversation, all for the cost of a great locally roasted latte per month. Follow or subscribe to the Rooted Leader podcast so you don't miss a future episode. Until next time, stay rooted in empathy and authenticity. Thank you so much.